So hey everybody, it's Mickey. We are back in the kitchen today. In last week's video, we talked about wanting to cook more from home. It's better for our health and better for our budget. And I shared with you 20 different ways to stock your pantry to help you make great home-cooked meals. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you over 40 different ways to stock your working kitchen with the ingredients that you are going to need to make these recipes delicious and affordable for your family. So if you are new here, I hope you'll take a minute to subscribe. I put out new videos every week about all things home. So I thought the best place to start us off today was in the spice cabinet. I think spices are the most affordable and easiest way to change the taste of just about any recipe. If you have some good spices at your fingertips, you could pretty much make anything taste good. If you are new to cooking or you are just now setting up your first kitchen, I really don't think you need as many spices as I have here. I have put together a list of what I feel are the essential spices that everybody should have in their kitchen. This is the list that I always buy and bring to my kids when they've started their first, college apartment and they have moved out on their own, and I think that you could make hundreds of different recipes with this list. A quick disclaimer before we get started. I know that everyone's tastes are different. Everybody has their favorite recipes that they like to make for their families. So you may have your own list of must-have spices for your cabinet. I would love to hear in the comment section down below which ones you can't live without and that you use the most in your home. As I said, whenever my kids have gone away to school and started their first apartment, I always like to go with them and help set up their kitchen because I think the spices can be really expensive, but I have found that you can find very good quality spices for a reasonable price at Walmart. That's where I did the majority of my shopping here. You can find spices for a container about this size, of course, depending on the spice, anywhere from 98 cents up to maybe $1.40 or so, which I think is a pretty reasonable price for spices when you have to buy, like a quantity of them to set up your kitchen. Okay, so we know that every kitchen needs salt and pepper. So I have always purchased Morton salt. It's the one that my mom has always used. It just has always been in my home. I know that Great Value at Walmart has their own brand, which I am sure is just as good as all their other spices. For pepper, if you don't want to mess with a pepper mill, I really recommend buying the coarse ground black pepper. This one is from McCormick. McCormick spices tend to be a little bit more expensive, but their quality is excellent. I really like the coarse ground because it adds more of a punch of flavor to whatever you use it in, instead of your just regular, really fine milled black pepper that you would just have, at dinner. For us, there are some very definite essentials. So in my family, garlic powder is one of those essentials. Now I choose garlic powder over garlic salt because I like to monitor the salt content in our food, and I tend to lean more towards that garlicky flavor rather than a salty flavor. This is the spice that I literally put in everything that I make pretty much every day. And if you are like me and you really do love that garlic flavor, I really recommend the powder. I think you will get that true garlic flavor without the added salt. I have what I like to call my house seasoning. Now these are the spices that I use to season all the different kinds of meats that I make, and it's a combination of salt, pepper, garlic powder, and paprika. Paprika is a really mild kind of smoky spice that adds a depth of flavor. It also adds a little bit of color onto your meat, especially if you're putting something like in the crock pot. I always think that you have a better result when you add a little bit of paprika to whatever protein that you cook in your crock pot. Another spice that I use all the time is minced onion. Now, anytime a recipe calls for raw onion, I replace it with minced onion. Raw onion is a little bit hard on the digestive system with our family, apparently. So I just replace it with minced onion. You always use less than what you would use for a fresh ingredient. And minced onion adds really great flavor. This is what I use. I put some like in meatballs and meatloaf, all my sauces, in my stews, everything. It is really a great flavoring to have on hand. Also, a good one to have is a blend of Italian seasonings. Now, this one contains basil, oregano, rosemary, thyme. I think it might have a couple other ones in there, but this is a good all-around seasoning for not only Italian food, it's great for Greek food. You can also use it, you can sneak it in your chili. It is very versatile. You will find thousands of uses for it. Now, personally, I like to have an individual basil seasoning. I really love basil. It has like this sweet licorice kind of flavor to it. I grow it fresh in pots out on my deck. You can find it in all kinds of Italian food, Greek food. I also like to use this in like with some oil and vinegar to make a dressing. Parsley is another one of those seasonings that can go in anything. I also grow that fresh out on my deck. I literally put it in almost everything that I make. For our house, we like things to be a little bit spicy, and we use a lot of crushed red pepper flakes. I also have like cayenne pepper and those kinds of spices in my cabinet, but this is the one that I grab more times than not. We put it on our, our Friday night takeout pizza. We like to add it to Chinese food to make it a little bit spicier. It's just a great flavor if you like to add a little bit of spice to your food. So Mrs. Dash may not be an essential seasoning, but it pretty much goes into everything that I cook. I love this stuff. I use the original. I have never even tried any of the other flavorings that they might have, but this one has always been my favorite. I love that it doesn't contain any extra salt. If you are stumped on, what to put on some chicken you're just going to stick in the oven, or flavoring just about anything, pull out Mrs. Dash, because it's a combo of so many good things in here, and it is a great addition to really anything that you cook. In our house, we use ranch seasoning for so many different things. I buy it in these big containers because we use it so much. I use it pretty much like in my regular cooking. I just add a little bit to, whatever I'm simmering on the stove. If you don't know what to make for dinner and you have like half frozen chicken in your refrigerator, put it in your crock pot, add some ranch seasoning, a little bit of maybe like chicken broth in there, and you'll have a very tasty dinner. So this is a large container of it, and if a recipe that you're reading calls for a packet of ranch dressing, you can use like 2 to 3 tablespoons of this, and it'll pretty much equal a packet of ranch dressing. Now, another thing that I like to use is Good Seasons Italian salad dressing mix. I use this a lot as I would use my ranch dressing. I use it in my crock pots, and it just has a little bit of a different mix than what you would find in your ranch dressing, but it is just as tasty. As far as oils go, I think it's important to have at least 2 different kinds of oils in your cabinet. The one, of course, would be a vegetable oil. This is what I use when I want a lighter oil, or if I want to pan fry something. It's what I use when I bake. For all other needs, I use my olive oil. This is what I use for pastas, for salad dressings, for just about anything. I love the flavor of olive oil. I have different types in my pantry that I will use for, just for bread, like where you add like your seasonings to it and you dip your Italian bread in it. I just think that it is one of the best oils out there to flavor your food and to make it a little bit something special. So as far as that goes, I think you can say the same thing about vinegars. I think it's important to have a couple different vinegars in your pantry. We have white vinegar, apple cider vinegar, and I have red wine vinegar, but the one that I reach the most for is balsamic vinegar. I think this has by far the best flavor of any of the vinegars out there. You can use it in any type of salad dressing. I've used this as a demi-glaze for meat. I've also used it as like a drizzle on baked goods and fruit. It is just so delicious. And you can add a few drops to it to your olive oil for, you know, to dip your different Italian or focaccia bread in. It has so much flavor, and I really do think it would be an important part of anybody's pantry. So breadcrumbs really aren't a seasoning, but I really think it's an important part of your pantry, and if you have them in your pantry, you can really make some really good stuff. I like the Italian style breadcrumbs. They're seasoned with your, you know, your regular Italian seasonings. You can buy just plain breadcrumbs and season them yourself, you know, depending on what you're making, but I think it's really important to have a small container of this in your cabinet. Adding this, you know, dredging some like chicken tenders in this and kind of pan frying them, or, you know, putting them on a cookie sheet and baking them in the oven. It is just so good. I use this for like eggplant and zucchini. Every now and then in the summer, if we get some really good green tomatoes, I'll make fried green tomatoes. So this to us is one of those essential products to have in the pantry. So I have a lemon and a lime here. I think it's really important to have a little bit of citrus in your kitchen. This can also be grapefruit. It could be a navel orange. It could be a tangerine. I think every kitchen is a little bit better with a little bit of citrus. I mean, especially if you eat a lot of fish, this is great to squeeze on salmon. It's a great addition to salad dressings. I think if you put a little bit of lemon in like your chicken soup, it really brightens the flavor of your soup. The rind of it can be used for baking along with the juices. There's just hundreds and hundreds of different ways to use citrus in your kitchen. Now, as far as baking goes, I think, of course, you know, we all know that you need a little bit of sugar and flour. I think the essential baking seasoning, of course, is ground cinnamon. It goes in so many different recipes. It's great in banana bread. It's great in French toast, in oatmeal, in just about anything. Along with that, of course, you'll need some baking soda. I've always used Arm & Hammer baking soda, and just about any baking powder will work great in your recipes. This is a new baking powder for me. What I normally do, as soon as I open it, I write the date that I open it here on the top so I know how old it is, because sometimes it can lose its potency a little bit. And usually right before I do all of my holiday baking, I usually buy myself a new container of this, because I'll probably go through, you know, 3/4 of this before the holidays are done. So it's also important to keep some things in your refrigerator for those home cooked meals. And you know, of course, you have your eggs and your milk. Those are absolute essentials. But there are some other things that I think if you had on hand, you can really expand your recipes very easily. So some of the sauces that I have in my refrigerator at all times is some type of hot sauce. So right now I have Frank's Red Hot Original. Now this is something that I always put in scrambled eggs. If I am breading, you know, some chicken to fry up or bake in the oven, I always add some of this to the egg wash, because it doesn't really add heat. It adds a lot of flavor. I also usually have some Capital City Mambo sauce. I don't know if this is in everywhere, but it's here in the DC, greater DC area. I guess it originated here. It's really great. My son uses this pretty much on everything. Nothing is too hot for him, so he really loves to add a lot of flavor with this. I also have some type of barbecue sauce in my refrigerator at all times. I add like a little squirt of this anytime I would use like, or make like sloppy joes, I add a squirt of this in my meatloaf, all kinds of different things I will add that to. And of course, barbecue chicken is one of our favorite meals ever. Now, Kinder's sauces is something that I have just started to use. This is a garlic parmesan sauce, which is really good. If you want a quick meal and you have like chicken tenders or like chicken breasts that you want to cook up really quick, adding this either, you know, as they cook or as a dipping sauce, you know, as you're eating them, this is really, really good. They have a bunch of different ones. They even have seasonings, which I have like a combo seasoning of like, I think it's black pepper, salt, and garlic granules, which is really good, especially when you barbecue. We always have a container or two of mayonnaise in our refrigerator. Of course, this is, you know, great for sandwiches, for your BLTs, for your tomato sandwiches. But I use this in combination with sour cream for my coleslaw, for my macaroni salad, potato salad. You can even combine those two in like a chicken and rice casserole. It is really very good and very tasty. They are such a great combo together. Of course, you have to have some ketchup. I'm a Heinz girl. It's the only kind of ketchup I buy. I always have a big container of Worcestershire sauce in my refrigerator. Never quite know how that word is going to come out of my mouth. But this is something that we put in a lot of soups and stews. I add it even to my tomato sauce sometimes. It just depends on, you know, what I'm going to use the recipe for. And ranch dressing is an essential in our house. My daughter growing up ate literally everything dipped in ranch dressing, and I mean everything from spaghetti to Chinese food to pizza. Everything she dipped in ranch dressing, so we always have that in our refrigerator as well. I like to keep a couple blocks of Philadelphia cream cheese in my refrigerator. This is really great to make any recipe a little bit creamier. I like to use the third less fat option in like my crock pot recipes. You save a few calories and it still makes it just as creamy. And if I'm going to bake with it, I always use the original full fat. I have a bunch of good things here in my cheese drawer. The most important thing in this drawer is my Locatelli Pecorino Romano cheese. We are a Romano cheese family. This is what I had in my house growing up. It's what my mom put on our pizza, on our spaghetti. It's just what I prefer. I prefer it over Parmesan pretty much any day of the week. If you are a family that uses the, you know, the green container of Parmesan cheese, try Locatelli Romano just once. I think that you will be converted to using it all the time. It has such a smooth, kind of smoky flavor to it, and it enhances anything that you put it in. I put it in my meatballs, my meatloaf. Sometimes I'll even put it in my spaghetti sauce. We put it in on top of our salads, on top of vegetable primavera. It is just absolutely delicious. So this is always in my refrigerator. So next to my Romano cheese, I have some Velveeta cheese here. I have some slices. I have a little block of cheese. I really think this is an essential ingredient to like macaroni and cheese. Anytime you make a cheese sauce, I think that Velveeta really does add like a creaminess and a smoothness to whatever you make. So I also have a bunch of sliced cheese. I have shredded cheese, my favorite, of course. It's the mozzarella and the provolone. Under here, I also have some cheddar, shredded cheddar cheese. The 4-state cheddar is our favorite to use in casseroles and things. I think having some cheese that you can either grate up yourself or, you know, purchasing packages like this is one of those important things to have on hand, because, you know, my family will eat just about anything if it has cheese on it. So this comes in handy in all kinds of recipes. I also have a bunch of sour cream in here. Love sour cream. We put it, you know, on top of our chili, our tacos. I had mentioned before that I mix it with mayo for my coleslaw and potato salad and all kinds of different recipes. I like to purchase it in smaller containers, but I also have large ones that we use throughout the week. These are really come in handy for baking, because a lot of recipes will call for 1 cup of sour cream, and I'm always, that person that always adds too much of something to a recipe, so I like these because they are in 1 cup containers. The other thing that I have in my refrigerator at all times is salsa and pepperoni. Pepperoni we have in our house all year long. I use it weekly. It's great for like a little charcuterie board, or I like to slice it up and put it on top of my pizza. I also slice it really, really thin, and I have like this meat lasagna that I do, that I layer it in. It's just a good little spicy meat to have on hand. It's a great snack with some cheese and crackers. You can just use it for so many different things. So of course my drawer contains a lot of stuff. I mean, I always have ricotta cheese on hand. I always have some other cheeses back there for grating. I usually have a dip or two here. I really love this Boursin garlic and fine herb cheese. But those are the kinds of things that I keep here in my cheese drawer just to make my recipes delicious. So those are the things that I like to keep in my working kitchen to help me make delicious, affordable meals. I hope this video was helpful for you. I would love to hear what your kitchen essentials are for the recipes that you make. Please leave your favorites in the comment section down below. I hope you'll join our communities over on Facebook and Instagram at My Bashful Life. And please don't forget to subscribe. I'd love to have you all back as part of our YouTube family. So until I see you in that next video, I hope that you love the life that you have. Be kind to each other, stay safe, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.